everyone, today we are going to be doing something a bit different. I know we actually looked at concept art the other day, but today we are going to be looking at concepts specifically for the magicals and concepts that the magicals were based on. So we're going to be looking at two types, both what the magicals were based on and also concepts for the actual magicals themselves, because of course not all magicals are just based on concepts from the past, and there are many phases to the design process that the monster handlers have to go through whilst designing a monster. So first of all, we are going to look at Psychic Island concept. So up first we have Juggler here. Now Juggler was based on a concept for the game that was actually featured in the Chinese version of the game on promotional images before the release of this monster. So lots of people are actually aware of this little creature down here. It doesn't specifically have a name, but here you can see that Juggler is indeed based off of it. This concept art was quite popular and people were wondering what exactly it was originally as well when people saw it on the Chinese store, because it does really look like a new monster, the bat-like figure. It doesn't necessarily look like one that would be put in game, and Juggler's design does look a lot better in comparison to the design that we see on the left here, but indeed it does look like a traditional My Singing Monsters monster, so it did get people wondering what exactly it was at the time, because we weren't aware that it was concept art. And then to the right we can see Juggler's actual concept art. Of course it was based on the one to the left, but the actual concept art to the side is what the concept art that was made for Juggler specifically. We can see marble-like figures above Juggler's head, and they have ears at the top as well, unlike their traditional form that we see towards the bottom that is in the actual game. Next up we have Pheromine. Pheromine here does not look at all different to its in-game featuring. If you have a look here, you can see that Pheromine looks very, very similar to the actual game itself, but here we can see that the mouth was actually not there at one point, because so we're exploring around, as they said on My Singing Monsters Live, with Pheromine not having a mouth particularly, because of them having mouths around them and being able to use their psychic abilities in being able to produce sound from their mouths around them, so they thought that maybe it would be a possibility of Pheromine not actually needing a mouth, but here we can see they did choose to include the mouth on the right. Not many phases to the design process for Pheromine in comparison to others. Up next we have Capricorn. I love Capricorn. Okay, so Capricorn actually looked extremely different before. Very, very, very different. I think we can all agree that Capricorn's design now looks a lot better in comparison to these. They are cool and they all look very different to one another, but I do think that Capricorn's actual end design is way better in comparison to the other ones. So there's two different phases to the design process that Capricorn actually took. So in the bottom left image we can see a friendly creature. Now they actually have bone knees down here. Now take note of bone as well. The reference to bone here is interesting. Perhaps this was originally meant to be on Bone Island. I'm not sure if Bone Island would have been exactly thought of when Psychic Island was made though. I'm sure they would have had a rough idea about future islands though, so it's important to note here that the word bone is mentioned perhaps. At the bottom left one does knock their knees to produce the sound that Capricorn makes from using their drumsticks to tap their horn, so that's quite notable as well. That would have been really weird to see in game. It would have reminded me of Squat kind of, with them perhaps being in pain making the sound. The left as well we can see that the artist behind this has wrote Chinese temple blocks knee knocker. And up above we can see a temple block like one, and then below they've wrote bamboo sticks for the design that is known for Capricorn. The little wings behind them as well remind me of Fairy Island as well, so I'm getting all sorts of vibes from this. The bottom left one looks like it was something that they were looking to include on Bone Island, and then to the top you can see that that one has fairy wings, so maybe that could have been like a fairy monster. So again, that's something that perhaps the design person might have been thinking about, making a design that may suit other things. Maybe that's something that goes into the design process, but then again we probably won't ever find out anything about that. Next up we have Ruba. Ruba here is extraordinarily different, as with most of these concepts right here. Ruba uses their hair to play their instrument usually, and we can see that they use the Ruba instrument as noted down below. A stretchy tendon between bone handles, it says as well on the concept art for the one on the left. Next up we have Poppet's design. Poppet looks different here as well. We have a little creature inside a massive tank-like thing that has similarities to Rebro. I definitely prefer prefer Puppet's actual design, as with most of these as well, though. It's noted steam cymbals down there, like Cerebro, really, isn't it? And dragon dance drums. It's phenomenal to me that it went from that to that. It's pretty weird if you think about it, that monster turned into Puppet. It's just insane. Like, that transformation right there. Honestly, the transformation between Capricorn and its original concept, though, that was huge, so it doesn't really surprise me that much. Alright, next up, we have Periscope. Now, Periscope's design looks extraordinarily similar to its original in-game concept, as well as we have seen with Ferromind also from what we've just looked at. It's noted here electronic drums, and also you can see that their antennas are missing on this design, so that's something that was added in the design process a little later on to this concept art. This isn't yet finalized though, isn't it? As we can see from all the features that are included on Periscope's design. Next up, we have Gloptic. Gloptic here is a cat-like monster, and this looks nothing like what we'd see in the actual game at all, in my opinion. It looks like one of them weird concepts that you see for My Singing Monsters just floating around in concept art, and I don't see again how that went from that to that. The design person must have just had a complete overhaul and done it all over again, really. The dulcimer instrument what Gloptic plays is noted above and below for Gloptic as well. I'm unsure if they would have actually called them Gloptic. Probably while they were designing it, they would have probably just called it by its instrument name, I'm assuming. I imagine names are something that come on later on in the process, because they need to finalize the design and things to actually understand the monster and what it looks like, because often names are based around what a monster's design does look like. So perhaps dulcimer and electronic drums for Periscope are the code names that are given to specific magical monsters whilst they are being designed, just to ease out the process perhaps. Next up, we have Bonkers. And we can see here that Bonkers also looks extremely similar to its actual design. PVC pipes were used as guidance for Bonkers, as well as noted in the right hand bottom corner, and these were called WAPs as well, supposedly, as their code name is noted above. Foop 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 is noted too, and we can tell that the idea of Bonkers hitting their head on the wood has been something that has been common throughout the process, and it's something that Bonkers was always intended to have. There's a yellow variant to Bonkers to the right as well, with blue spots. It looks really different to the left one, and it honestly looks really cool. I don't think it would suit a normal variant of a monster though. It would be cool if they perhaps explore this if we get rare magicals, wouldn't it? Next up, we are actually looking at a Fairy Island piece of concept work. Now, unfortunately for the Fairy Island ones, we haven't actually gotten any concept art for it, but however, we do know that Flute Fly was based on the actual original quad element for Earth Island. Originally, for Earth Island, the quad elemental was actually supposed to be Flute Fly in the design process and the process of them making the game. However, they altered the design to Chorister later on, and they scrapped Flute Fly, and it never appeared since until now, when it appeared on Fairy Island. Or not now, rather. 4 months ago. It was 4 months ago, wasn't it? Blimey, that went fast, didn't it? We can see some similarities definitely here that Flute Fly shares with this concept art design too. You can tell that Flute Fly was heavily based around this design, as with the Juggler one that was in the Chinese promotional art for the game as well. You can tell that magicals are sometimes based on actual concept art for the game, as we've been over in the video now. So if you want to go and check that out for the next magical island and perhaps see some monsters, make sure to go and check that out if you haven't. Next up, we also have some Bone Island concept art. We actually did get some Bone Island concept art, so that's cool. So we're going to look over that now. Now, particularly for Bone Island, there doesn't appear to have been much phases throughout the development of the actual monsters themselves, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to see many concepts behind the actual monsters, and most of them are actually quite finalized here. If there's more concept art, I'm unsure, but this is the only concept art that we currently have for Bone Island as of recent. Okay, so first up, we have some concepts featuring Banjo and Hollow here, and some monsters that just honestly, who knows what they're supposed to be. It appears that when designing the Bone Island elementals, they were just going at all sorts of ideas just to perhaps find the best ideas possible. In My Sea Monsters Live, when these designs were actually shown, they highlighted the fact that they were trying to differentiate the monsters on Bone Island from the actual bone monsters that we see in game, like Voodoo and Bon Appetit. They were trying to differentiate them, and you can see here that they are trying to make use of the bone element as much as possible, with these featuring bones in ways that perhaps normal monsters wouldn't. And you can see here some similarities between other monsters too. Like if you look at the one next to Banjo, you can say that that one is similar to Denchus with the mouth, and that idea probably was just for Denchus. And the one to the right, the shark-like one, they look like they would have been for Banjo, because they have that idea again of the chittering teeth, don't they? The one next to the shark one looks like they might have been for Wither as well. And the one to the left top looks like they might have been for Plinka. Next up, we have some more. Here are quite finalized designs. We have little Echidna down here. Echidna's design is also quite finalized. Clacula, Wither. All of these designs look very similar. We can see a couple of notes, however, around these. We can see Harp noted for Wither. We can see Clack on Claculas. And next up, we have some more. We have Plinkaju, Panchus, and Uduk's final designs pretty much here. And then finally, last but not least, guys, we have the lyrics. Now, supposedly, they didn't actually mention this on My Sea Monsters Live, so it's unconfirmed, but going from the design of Wither, we can say that perhaps some inspiration was drawn from the lyrics. Here are the lyrics. And honestly, the lyrics do look similar to Wither, but perhaps it's not really based off the lyrics. They look similar, but that doesn't mean that they were based off the lyrics. But it wouldn't surprise me if Wither was a unique concept come up with no inspiration from the lyrics themselves, but the similarities between the concept and Wither must be highlighted on. Whether they will expand on that in a future My Sea Monsters Live episode, we will have to see. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. Did you enjoy seeing some similarities between the concept work, just seeing some concept work, and seeing concept work that monsters were actually based off from previous My Singing Monsters concept art iterations throughout the years? Let me know down below. I will see you later, guys. Bye.